So, all right, there's the recording, and let me go ahead and get my screen shared. Um, all right, so week 3. The first week focused on those big site-wide changes, and the second week dug down a little bit into course-level changes. So the third week is really just focusing on what are some smaller activity-level changes that we think make a big difference and are notable enough to mention to others. Um, that information is all contained in a single lesson. And let me get editing turned on here because I could summarize most of this on one page, believe it or not. We're going to show that topic. That was supposed to be automated, and I forgot to set up the dates. That's my fault. Um, so most of these activity level changes we find to be really, really interesting are you can see them all actually on one page, which is on the assignment settings page. So I've just got editing on the course. I'm going to add a new assignment here, and I can show you what 4 of those are on this page. I think maybe even 5. With the assignment's gotten 2 unique updates in particular, technically 3, but that third one applies to a lot of other stuff. So 2 things that are new for the assignment in particular. One, there are now dedicated assignment instructions. And I know that there was the description previously, but if you are like, if you have an instructor who they really want to show the description on the course homepage and also use it for instructions, that ends up taking up a lot of space and it's kind of frustrating. There was always that spot where you could upload a document like a syllabus or not a syllabus, sorry, a rubric or an assignment prompt outlining resources and things like that. But there wasn't a dedicated instruction space, and now there is. The learners will not see the assignment instructions if they're added until they begin their attempt. So they'll open up the assignment, they'll click begin submission, and that's when they see the instructions for the assignment. So just something to keep in mind. This also ties into another unique assignment addition that was added in 4.0, which is there is now a time limit option for assignments. And this does have to be enabled by an admin for it to become available for your instructors. The time limit functions a lot like the due date on an assignment rather than the time limit on a quiz. Because the time limit on a quiz, once that time expires, that's it, pencils down. Usually it's set to automatically submit the attempt at that point. For the assignment, it treats it more like a due date. And so if you have a due date set, but not a cutoff date, they can submit after that date. So they can submit it late, but it'll tell you it's late and it'll tell you how late it is. The only thing that stops it is whether or not you've had a cutoff date set. And the same applies to the time limit. So if you give them 10 minutes, it'll let you know if they submit late. It'll let you know how late it was. And the only thing that stops this is a cutoff date and time or hiding the activity. So that's it. The learners do get a lot of notice that there's a time limit, and this is clearly communicated to them. I know I have it up here in another tab. So when they go to that assignment page and they click the begin assignment button to create a submission, usually it says create submission, it will prompt them and let them know like, I know it's hard to see back here, but it does tell you the time limit before you click the button. And then when you click the button, it'll say you have 10 minutes to complete this or however much time it is. And once they start, the timer starts, it cannot be stopped. So they actually have to click like begin assignment twice to begin actually uploading something. So it's going to be really, really clear to them that they have a time limit and that they're expected to follow that. The timer will appear in the block drawer, which should open by default once they start creating their submission. So that's another new little feature in there. We've had that asked about for a while, especially for end of term exams like finals, things like that, uploading final projects or in-person lab reports, stuff like that, that's a little bit more time limited. But again, if you are an admin, trying to remember offhand, I believe that is in site administration and plugins, then assignment settings. And you can also search for this. It's a little bit further down here. There's an option called enabled timed assignments, and that just has to be checked yes or no. And if you don't happen to have access to this area of site admin, you can just open up a ticket, or you can communicate with the folks who are handling your site upgrade and let them know that you do want that to be enabled. But by default, it's disabled. So it's just something to keep in mind. Let's see. Two more things. So I'm going to open up grade. And I'm going to open up something else. So you used to be able to set a grade to pass on quiz, but you couldn't really set a grade to pass on other things. It was a little inconsistent. And so now literally any graded activity in your course has the option to have a grade to pass threshold. So you can now set that literally anything, forums, lessons, database, assignment, workshop, like all of those can have a grade to pass threshold, not just the quiz, which means that unlike just the quiz, now any graded activity can require a passing grade as part of its activity completion requirement. So if there's a grade associated with it, you can require not just a grade, but a passing grade as a requirement of learners completing that activity. And that is something new in 4.0. You do still have to enable the option to receive a grade, because obviously they can't receive a passing grade if they have not also received a grade in general. So I know it seems a little silly to check two boxes and create an extra label, but again, you can't get a passing grade without a grade. So it's a little dependency in there that you have to have enabled. But now any grade activity has this awesome new feature. So I really like that. I think it adds a little bit more of a consistent experience, especially for instructors who use activity completion a lot. And I'm a big fan. All right. One other thing, and by the way, I think I might be able to get you out of here pretty early since it's just you and I. There is now an option called Send Content Change Notification. This is at the bottom of every single settings page for an activity or a resource in the course. And if the instructor checks that box, when they save, a notification is sent to the learners based off of their notification preferences. If they've set it up so that they get email but no notifications in system, that's what'll happen. They might get an email and a notification, but essentially the notification looks sort of like this. So this is an example of the email that the learners would receive, and it'll include the type of activity or resource that it is, its name, which is also a link to it, and they'll let you know that it's been changed in the name of the course, which is also a link to it. So this is a really, really simple notification. This is more so for those situations where, maybe a hybrid course or a face-to-face course, the instructor comes to the learners and says, by the way, I went ahead and added something new to the course. Look for the notification. The link will be out later. Or maybe someone brings something up in class and the instructor's like, you're right, I should add that to the site. Look for the notification a little bit later. So this is more like a little utility for instructors. You can kind of modify this a little bit in the language pack if you're an administrator, but this is really a one-for-all type of deal. So if you change it in the language pack, it changes for everybody in terms of how the notifications go out. So it's really just something to keep in mind. You can do this not just when you change existing content, but when you create new content. It's just a really simple checkbox. If you're using the notification, it looks exactly the same way as the email, and that'll just appear in the notification menus for the learners right at the top. They'll get a little badge icon there. Looks pretty similar in the mobile app too. So all pretty consistent. I like it because it does save the instructor the extra hassle of having to go out and send another email or a forum post or something just to add one little piece of content or to make a simple update to an activity. They can just say, hey, look for the notification later, and then they're good to go. All right, so you can see like 4 or 5 of those all on one page, which I love. And then another thing that I wanted to show is a pretty dramatic improvement to a workflow that I found to be really clunky in the past. And I'm a really big fan of using H5P. And the challenge with H5P is the workflow if you're using the integrated version of H5P, which requires you to build in the content bank and then deploy to the H5P activity in the course as if you're pulling from a repository. Sort of like how you build questions in the question bank and then add them into a quiz. Is if I am in an H5P activity in my course and I find something that I want to change, In 3.11 and earlier, I would have to come back to my course, go to this menu, open up the content bank, find my content, open the content, edit the content, then save it, and then go back. And I find that to be, pretty clunky and a little frustrating. It's not very user friendly. So what I love in 4.0, and this, I don't even think this was in the release notes. I don't think this had like a screenshot for new features or anything like that. It was just like a little addition. It's a perfect addition for folks who use that workflow. And that is, if you're in the H5P activity like I am now, so we have one H5P activity in this course, it's an interactive book, and I'm going through here and I happen to find, a typo or something like that. There's now a dedicated link called Edit H5P Content. And when I click that, it takes me directly to the editing interface in the content bank for this activity. And once I save or cancel, it takes me right back to the activity within the course. Dramatic improvement in that overall workflow for what you have to do. I thought you might appreciate that one. So that's a really, really nice change in there that I'm a very big fan of. All right, and those are pretty much some of them. Those are pretty much the major changes that we talk about with the activity level stuff. We block out so much time in this session just so that folks can ask any random questions that they have. The only other thing I'll add is I did add in the URL here for the self-paced training course backups, and I think I probably need to edit that URL resource so that it actually shows the description, so it's a little bit more communicative about what it does. Actually, I'll trigger a little notification here so that folks know. Everyone's gonna get a random notification. But that'll let the folks who have not checked the course recently know that there's some good stuff in here. This is a self-enroll course that has our self-paced training course backups in it for 4.0. These are a series of courses that actually I think you might be familiar with these ones. They may have been added onto your site in the past for site upgrades, and they've been renamed slightly, but the general content is the same. So there's an introductory level course for instructors, an advanced course for instructors, a general course for learners, and then a resource course for admins. And all of those are in here. They do have, they each have at least one glossary. So let's see. Oh, that's a reply I was writing out for the forum. We pop back into our course. There was, why am I blanking out right now? It's a little bit further down. Yeah, okay. So here's the Where Did Blank Go glossary that we have in the course. There's a version of this in every single one of the self-paced courses. So there's one that's specifically for instructors. There's one that's specifically for learners. That'll help, I think, manage some of the confusion over where did things move in this update, especially if your theme is changing to like this boost theme or boost based theme. So, and again, that'll just be in there. You can download the backups. The glossary files are included separately. They have to be imported manually into each course, unfortunately, because glossary entries are considered user data. It's sort of like forum posts. So that's a little bit of a not the fun part, but there's only one glossary in two of the courses. There's two in another, and then all the glossaries are included in the admin course just for reference, so you can see what they see without having to pop into each individual course. But those are all right here. You can download and restore those as you go along. But yep, what's going on, Josh?
Quick question. On those courses, they used to be created using the Snap theme, and I heard rumors that they might be using Boost now. Do you have any idea?
For the screenshots and whatnot, or?
Yeah, for the screenshots, for the training itself.
Gotcha. Right now, I think the screenshots are in Boost primarily, with a focus on the folks who are changing themes in terms of like the newer features. But the way that these are structured is so that you can modify them to fit your needs. One example I would give you in the introductory instructor course is a lot of this deals with how does my site work? Like, how do I set up basic features and things like that with some zoomed in screenshots. So it's not like the whole page in case your theme is a little different. But also in the new to you, this is set up in a book. So if there are pages in here that you're not using, you would just go ahead and hide those. So if you're not using the boost theme, you would just hide that entire section. And your instructors would be none the wiser. They would just see the stuff that you want them to see. So we also wanted this to be as easy to update as possible on your end. I don't know about larger screenshots with Snap and whatnot. I do think we need to split these courses a little bit when we move to like 4.1 and 4.2, so that the folks who are on Snap, because there's content in this course about, you know, what the changes to Boost are, that if you're on Snap and you're sticking with Snap, you're not really going to notice, right? It's only if you move away from Snap that you would notice some of these. So I want to make sure that it's a bit more effective and streamlined for folks who are actually making that change and the folks who aren't as well. All right. So right now, I haven't been specifically assigned anything, but yeah, I would like to have the course divided up a little bit more in the 4.1 version in a couple of months here, so that if you're on Snap, you can skip over a lot of the theme-based stuff and focus more on the cool little improvements like the question bank and stuff like that instead.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Any other questions that were coming up?
I have probably two comments, and then maybe I've got another question that after we're done recording, I can follow up with.
Okay.
But first of all, the assignment, the timed assignment, that's super awesome. I was working with a couple of instructors through the pandemic, and we ended up trying to basically roll out the same functionality using a quiz and the essay question.
Gotcha.
So students wouldn't get the question until they started the quiz, and then they could upload their results. But then that totally like circumvents the whole assignment grader functionality, which is really helpful. So that's awesome to see that's in there.
Yeah, I think the instructor course, like the self-paced course for instructors, there's a page for assignment improvements, and so it shows. I think it shows what it looks like. Yeah, and so we kind of break down like what this all means.
That's great.
Yeah,
and then the H5P. I gave the thumbs up because that's been one of my biggest beefs about transitioning from the two different H5P frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got everybody on the trajectory that we're switching H5P plugin at the same moment that we upgrade to 4.1 in July.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm super happy to see that there's that quick edit button.
It's really nice. Yeah, it's really, really nice.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan.
And when you go in and edit, so there's two ways to do H5P, right? If in terms of like using the content, there's the assignment H5P assignment type, and then there's the H5P in the Addo editor.
Yeah, there's technically four if we're counting the editor as well. So the editor will let you embed it, but then it doesn't show up in the gradebook, which some people like.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still pull from the content bank if you're using the content bank as a repository to embed in the editor. We use the integration, which is the content bank, so you've got that H5P assignment in there. It sounds like you're using that and the interactive content version of H5P, which is the plugin.
Right, we're moving away from the interactive content version.
Gotcha. And there's technically there's technically like an LTI version of H5P, but that one actually costs money. So we usually don't mention it as much. Most folks, like we have, I think, 2 folks who use it. Can't remember if it's Pitt or Nash offhand that do. But it doesn't matter, right? So long story short, we only have like 2 clients I know of who use it. And it's for a feature that Moodle is going to be rolling out at some point in the next couple of months anyway, at least according to the tracker about it. And that's really just a save state. So sometimes with the H5P activities, If you get partway through and you leave as the learner, you have to start back over where you can come back in. And the LTI version, you don't have to do that. It actually saves your progress. But they're working that into a Moodle upgrade in the future anyway. So it's kind of like I wouldn't nudge anybody towards LTI right now is really what it is.
Gotcha.
Yep. All right. Cool. Well, keep forgetting I need to actually hit send on my reply to Christina. So Christina, if you're watching this recording, I'm sorry I haven't sent that yet. I did see your question come in yesterday. But, all right, let me go ahead and stop sharing, and I'll go ahead and turn off the recording since I think we're all set. And